Okay, wow, we're live. Ed, this is our first one. This is our first live stream. We haven't ever done live streams here at the foundation that I know of, so I'm excited about trying this live stream on FreeBSD Day. Hi, everybody. I am Kim McMahon, and I lead our advocacy and community efforts at the FreeBSD Foundation. And for FreeBSD Day, we wanted to do something a little different and talk to members of the community and kind of hear their stories and learn more about the project. So Ed, our Director of Technology, is our first live stream today. Hi, Ed. You want to give a little introduction about who you are and where you came from?
Sure. So I'm Ed Maste. I'm the Senior Director of Technology for the FreeBSD Foundation. So that means I manage the team that we have working directly on technology projects within the foundation, as well as oversee the project grants that we take on and sort of the development effort that we participate in a broader sense. I've been a FreeBSD committer since 2005. Early on in my career, I worked for a company called Sandvine, which had a product that used FreeBSD as the basis for their own internal custom operating system. And they were using FreeBSD 5.3, I think, at the time for one product, and FreeBSD was working on FreeBSD 6. The main development branch was what was targeted for FreeBSD 6. And so there was a lot of work going on, bug fixes and network stack concurrency improvements and things happening in FreeBSD in the development branch. And we at Sandvine were running into bugs occasionally, finding things that were already fixed in 6. And so I got my start primarily by merging bug fixes back into the stable/5 branch that we were using, making sure that it was usable and served our needs, and that we addressed bug crashes and scalability and concurrency problems from upstream. So that's sort of how I got my start collaborating with people who were doing the work in the development branch of FreeBSD and bringing things back into the stable branches.
That's exciting. Gosh, think about that. You've been part of FreeBSD since 5, and we're on 14. So that's you've seen a lot. But at some point, you had to have left, I guess, industry, for lack of a better word, and moved over to the foundation. When did that happen?
So I was at Sandvine until about 2010 or 2011. And I think that, sort of my I was looking for something new. I started doing a little bit of consulting work on FreeBSD kernel development with a couple of companies at that time, and started working part-time for the foundation to kind of help set the technical direction and make some progress there. I knew the people involved in the foundation. I had been going to BSD Can and other BSD conferences with my work at Sandvine originally, and sort of got to know the community and got to know everyone there. And the foundation was at a point in its kind of growth trajectory where it was starting to transition to having a slightly larger budget, starting to accomplish slightly more development work internally. And so it was a good opportunity for me to contribute. At the time, I was still doing mostly, or maybe half, I would say, consulting work with various companies, and then also trying to help move the foundation's technical projects forward. But in relatively short order, there was enough work going on that became my full-time opportunity to work for the foundation.
Well, that's exciting. I'm really looking forward to working with you here at the foundation. So you've been around for I don't even know how many years that would be, going through the releases, but I bet you've seen a lot of really interesting projects that the foundation and the project have done together. Do you want to share one?
Yeah, sure. Certainly, a lot of work has been done within the community and within the foundation and as collaborative efforts. One of the interesting projects, I think, for me was the ARM64 port, because that probably is, it represents one of the first times
Oh,
where the foundation really participated in a significant way in a large and collaborative project. So, the foundation had sponsored individual features or individual development efforts in the past, but this is the ARM64 port represents sort of a large net new development effort that involved some people within the foundation as well as community members and a couple of different funding sources. So there were within the FreeBSD community, there were a few different organizations that were interested in seeing production quality ARM64 support
mhm.
in FreeBSD. Um, and there was a community member, Andy Turner, who had been doing some development effort on ARM64, some bring up effort that was sort of self-motivated. It wasn't being, at that time, Andy's work wasn't being driven by a company. He just had an interest in bringing this forward. And then there was also SemiHalf, which is a consulting house with FreeBSD experience that was doing some work on FreeBSD for ARM64 for one of their clients. And so the foundation got involved and we sort of coordinated the whole effort and made sure that everyone was kind of collaborating and moving together in the same direction. And I think it's with a goal for this effort of getting to the point of having ARM64 join x86 as a tier one architecture within FreeBSD. And so, yeah, we've definitely it was a relatively long and extensive project, but FreeBSD has had ARM64 or AR64 as a tier one architecture in FreeBSD for some time now, quite some time now, as a result of our effort and the community's effort.
Yeah, that's exciting. And hardware. I love hardware. I came from a hardware background. My first
Mhm.
job in tech. Okay, everybody, hold on here, Ed. First job in tech was with Silicon Graphics. Remember Silicon Graphics? Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember. Actually, I can tell stories. You remember what was it? The titanium. We called it the Titanic chip anyway. That 64-bit architecture from another vendor. Anyway, yeah, I remember working with all of those vendors and visiting them. It was an exciting time. I love hardware. But back to the project. So what I have noticed since I've gotten here is the vast amount of project related work that the team is working on, either like through our contributors on the project or through what the foundation is helping fund. Why don't you share something that you're really excited about that we're working on?
Yeah, there's a few interesting few projects I think that I find particularly interesting right now, and so one of the things that the foundation is focusing on recently, based on feedback we've had from the community, from the surveys that we've participated in with the core team, and that is making sure that FreeBSD is usable as a development environment, sort of on a developer's laptop or desktop machine. And I would say that I think we're not trying here to make 2024 the year of FreeBSD on the desktop. That isn't our goal, but absolutely it is our goal to be able to that a developer who wants to do FreeBSD development should be able to use FreeBSD as their primary working environment. So there's a couple of projects related to that that are ongoing now, and so one of the ones that we're funding is a revamp of the sound subsystem in FreeBSD. So that's Christos is working on that project, and it is something that I think FreeBSD's sound infrastructure was actually kind of ahead of its time when it was first introduced. And broadly speaking, it's just worked the entire time. So there were lots of challenges that other operating systems faced with their sound subsystems. And FreeBSD never had those kinds of issues. We had in-kernel mixing multi-channel support sort of from when sound support was first introduced. But on other hand, I think we had a very good foundation to start from, but for quite a while, it had not been. Uh, eh, I shouldn't say it hadn't been maintained. I mean, it had been kept in a functional state, but things like Bluetooth, Bluetooth support, or um, good handling for USB microphones. So if you detach or reattach a USB microphone, those sorts of things
Yeah.
hadn't been addressed and didn't work particularly well. So the sound project right now is addressing those sorts of things, making it so that it's uh, that this that in a day-to-day environment using FreeBSD as your desktop, the kinds of annoyances, basically, things that it's no longer the case that unplugging your USB microphone or webcam will cause applications to stop responding, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so that's been a great usability improvement. Another project that we have ongoing is identifying a number of laptop models that we want to make sure are well supported. And one of the questions that often comes up in the FreeBSD community is, I want a laptop to run FreeBSD on. What should I buy? And there's, the community will respond with some sort of anecdotal comments on hardware that we know works well, or people will say, oh, I have a
Yeah.
whichever model, and it works well for me. But one of the things that the foundation is looking at trying to do is identify a number of specific models that will say we're going to invest some resources into making sure that they work well. And so one of the examples is the framework laptop, who I think has a sort of corporate ethos that matches well with what FreeBSD wants to accomplish. And so, I'm using a framework as my day-to-day driver. The first model that they came out with, the 11th generation Intel, is my day-to-day laptop running FreeBSD. But then we also have one of the latest generation that is not yet released, but we're sort of identifying what needs to be done in FreeBSD to make sure that we'll have support for it when the time comes.
Oh, I'm picturing, this is my marketing hat. I'm picturing laptops at events, showing a laptop, and, people love, yeah. I mean, I, I was at, State of OpenCon, and I met a user, his name is Daniel, and he runs FreeBSD on his laptop. And oh my God, I've never seen somebody so excited about, their laptop and FreeBSD and everything it enables. So he was talking about how it made it so easy for him to do his work, and he didn't have to do a bunch of switching out through different, I don't know, windows, for lack of a better word. So yeah, he loved it.
Yeah, I think FreeBSD is well known as sort of being a great server operating system, and there are certainly people in the FreeBSD community who use FreeBSD as they have a server running FreeBSD and they use a Mac, or they use Windows, or they use Linux on their laptop, and that's certainly a reasonable way to use FreeBSD. I wouldn't insist that someone run FreeBSD on their laptop, or consider that it's a lesser way to interact with the community. But I think it is critical that FreeBSD is functional as a desktop laptop operating system for the developer community, because it's sort of it's key to be able to use FreeBSD as your daily driver. If you're also going to be if you're going to deploy it in production, it's key that it can also function for you as a day-to-day operating system.
Yeah, and Daniel wasn't using it that way. He was just
Yeah,
using it to code. And
yeah,
that's and he loved he really loved the working. He loved the way it worked. And we have my interview with Daniel out there on our YouTube channel, and I need to do another one because he promised to do some demos and show how he does things. So I need to reach back out to him and do that and share those demos with the community. But
Yeah, one of the things I think that's really great about FreeBSD, I think FreeBSD is probably the best operating system to use for someone who wants to learn about systems programming or who wants to kind of explore that space. But just as a development platform in general, I think FreeBSD provides an excellent opportunity, and it's sort of um, it's sufficiently capable, and there's enough there that you can, generally speaking, you can do what you need to, you can accomplish what you want to accomplish using FreeBSD, but it also is it's still understandable enough and simple enough, I think, that you can kind of comprehend how everything works. And that's a complaint I've heard elsewhere, that sort of things have developed to a point where it's no longer possible to understand all of the system. And I think FreeBSD still has that ability to a large extent.
Yeah, I think it's one of the benefits we talk about on our website as well for the project. Yeah. And I might be getting us in trouble by trying to talk about this, but isn't it doesn't it run things faster, or does it not run things, or is it pretty similar to other laptops running other distributions? I'm not talking like a Windows, like I'm comparing it to other open source operating systems.
I think it's always tricky to get into discussions about
Okay.
performance discussions, whether that is on end user laptops, desktops, or in server applications. There are some workloads where FreeBSD will outperform other operating systems, and there are other workloads where FreeBSD will be behind. I think there famously was some anecdotes where people used to so on FreeBSD we have a thing called a Linuxulator, which is it's a kernel implementation of a bunch of Linux interfaces, and so it allows you to run unmodified Linux binaries natively on FreeBSD. And quite some time ago now, there are anecdotes of people who ran Linux binaries on FreeBSD and found that they actually performed better. They had better performance than they did natively on Linux. Now,
Mm.
these are anecdotes from maybe 20 years ago. Now, right? And I think, at the end of the day, it's also not something that is a particularly useful metric for us to go after. I think it's most important that people are able to accomplish the work they want to do on FreeBSD.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but sometimes people love talking about that, and I really like that how at the end of the day, it's most important for people to be able to accomplish what they want to do on the laptop. So with that, I would love, I'd love to be hearing the stories of, hey, I use FreeBSD here, and I love it, and it does I use it because of this, and that's why. So there's my pitch out to the community to tell me your stories. So this is great. Okay, we have somebody new listening, how can they get involved? How can they, yeah, get started?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say have a look at the FreeBSD project page,
Uh-huh.
freebsd.org. Definitely, I think for new people getting started, the FreeBSD forums.freebsd.org is a good resource. I think there's quite a community active on Discord as well. For the developer community, most of the kind of long time established FreeBSD folks participate largely on the mailing lists. And so there's a link to those from the project's page. But that's looking at reading and participating in the mailing lists is a good way to get involved with the developer community specifically. And then finally come to one of the BSD conferences. So whether that's BSDCan, Asia BSDCon, or Euro BSDCon, and meet people in person. And I think that's a really great opportunity to get involved with the community, and I think you'll find that by and large, the FreeBSD community is a welcoming and positive community to interact with.
Yeah, you just got back from BSD Can.
Yeah,
So
so BSD Can just
yeah,
wrapped
show
up.
your shirt too. I think I saw a Canadian
So,
flag there.
so
Yeah, there
yeah,
we
so
go.
this one is from a little. This is from 2019, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a great bobblehead with the Canadian flag. I love that. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So super. So it's FreeBSD, freebsd.org. And so thank you, Ed, for being our very first live stream on FreeBSD Day as one of the overall activities that we're doing, kind of celebrating FreeBSD throughout this entire week. And if you want to tell us our story, I think what's our email address? info@freebsdfoundation.org, right? I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, send me a note. Tell me you want to tell a story, or send a note and say, Ed, you're awesome. So whatever you want to do. Anyway, Ed, again, thank you. Any last words you have? No?
No, just get in touch
Yeah.
and we'd love to have new people get involved in the community.
Absolutely. We love all people and new people and old people and old people. Anyway, thanks again, Ed, and we'll see you all in the next live stream that is going to start at the top of the hour. Okay, bye everybody.
Thank you.